Well, here we are in the garden center area, and we're looking at a very tall specimen, that same limelight that we looked at, and again they can be grown as just a very large shrub. And a lot of people kind of want that instant gratification, and a large grown-on shrub like this certainly would do that for you and give you a really nice specimen for the landscape. And then as we walk down here, we are finishing up here with the hibiscus syriacus, which is more commonly known as Rose of Sharon. These are plants that will get 8 to 10 feet tall easily. They start blooming in July, and they literally go well into September, almost to October, depending on the season. But it's nice to have that long season of color again, as we talked about with the butterfly bushes, with the hydrangeas. These are all plants that give you a very long season of color. And by employing some of these within the landscape, you're really going to extend that colorful season for you here in New England. We have the beautiful blues over here. We'll have more coming along. There are pinks with a kind of a raspberry pink with a deep pink center, almost a red center. There are some handsome. And I think, to me, the single specimens, the single flowers, are even more showy than the doubles, and they do come in double as well. But they're a really handsome, good-sized plant for the landscape. They can literally be kept as small as 4 to 5 feet by judicious pruning, and they bloom on new wood, so they can be actually pruned in the spring, which is a nice thing with them. Or they can be allowed to go and some of them you can pick out as a tree form. We sometimes have them as trees as well, trained to the standard form, like we saw that hydrangea. So a nice range of plants, I think, for people to think about this time of year for lots of color.
Absolutely. And Deb, once again, how do we reach you?
That would be GardenAuthor.com, and simply scroll down to the bottom of any page and click on email, and you will have a little form pop up, and you can just tell me your name and phone number in case the email for some reason doesn't work, and off we go.
All right.
We've had people taking advantage of that the last week too.
Very good. With Deb Lambert at Corliss Brothers in Ipswich, I'm Rick Moore. This is MSO Web Radio. Okay.
And this is a panicle hydrangea. Hydrangea paniculata, and the variety is Pinky Winky. And the reason it is Pinky Winky, although it's white right now, is later on. It has beautiful red stems too, by the way, which are quite handsome. But this is a really striking flower. I have one. I planted one 2 years ago in my garden. I absolutely love it. So the flowers hold on for a nice long time, but eventually they start getting a pink flush. They get deeper and deeper pink until you get well into the fall, and they've turned deep raspberry sort of by mid to late September. They're really getting a nice coloration to them, and they hang on for a long time. If you prefer, a lot of these panicle hydrangeas can be clipped and brought in the house as dried flowers. That's another possibility too with some of these. Right now we're looking at something just coming into bud. It's another one of the panicle hydrangeas, and this one is trained to a tree form, so it has a center trunk, a nice central stem, and because of the training that it's had in its youth, has developed a nice flowering head. And these are quite hardy. They do very well in this area. Hydrangeas generally are a nice hardy plant, so it's a nice way to get a small tree for a courtyard, someplace like that. We're walking by some more varieties in here, more of the red stem. Also Pinky Winky. And as we look up in here, we're looking at some of the Annabelle hydrangeas up in the back. A few of them are still looking quite nice. As you drive around, that rounded head is what you see in this general area. And they're quite pretty right now still. They have a nice long season of bloom as well. We have another Pinky Winky up there trained to a standard form, very pretty plant also. There's another one that they either train to standard or allowed to grow as a shrub, and it's a variety called Limelight. And as the buds first open, it has a very definite green cast to it. It's losing that a little bit now. It's starting to fade, but you can still see at the top that definite greenish cast. It's a handsome plant. And those have the nice big panicle flowers, just like the others over there, but a little denser flower head, which is pretty neat. And as we turn around to the rear here, we have some beautiful hydrangeas that are still some of the series we looked at earlier in the season. We talked about the lace caps and the mop heads, the macrophylla hydrangeas, and these are some of those, and still looking not too bad. A little bit of browning here and there, but some decent color. And if we wander over to the garden center, we can take one more stop over there and take a look at a couple more hydrangeas and maybe a little bit of hibiscus.
All right, we're with garden author Deb Lambert at Corliss Brothers on Route 133 in Ipswich on this Tuesday morning after the rains and all the hot weather. Deb, good morning, and what's our topic for today?
Good morning, Rick, and our plants of the week this week are going to be butterfly bushes, which is kind of topping everybody's plant list right now. As you're looking around, driving around, you're seeing beautiful specimens in bloom, whether they're pinks, purples, whites, just a wonderful assortment. And of course we plant them to attract the butterflies to still even further beautify our yard and enjoy our surroundings even more. And the butterfly bushes are really like a magnet for the butterflies. They'll also attract hummingbird moths, which look very similar to a hummingbird at first glance. They hover. They're one of the only moths that can hover because they have clear wing and hover in place and draw nectar from these beautiful little flowers. And of course hummingbirds. Now I've also seen hummingbirds busily getting the nectar from these as well. And although they're more attracted to the vibrant colors, the oranges and reds and so forth, they'll also, if they're in the area, find the nectar-rich plants like this, and they will also take advantage of those. I've had them on purples and whites as well, and that's certainly not their first color choice. So kind of a neat thing that we're going to draw in so many great parts of nature right into our own backyard. The other thing is the pollinators, and the tiny little wasps, the big showy wasps. They don't really bother you. I've worked around them numerous times. They're large and they're black and they got white stripes on them. It's incredible, the array of wildlife that you'll attract with these plants. Right here we're looking at some, they're starting to fade back, but there are lots more blooms coming, so the trick to these is once that bloom does fade, on this pink one for instance, we would go down and cut back above this next set of buds down here. So if we cut right there, we immediately tell these to start blooming. They will anyway, but it cleans up the plant and it keeps it fresh looking, and that gives these more incentive to come along and bloom. And as you can see when you look down on this plant, you see many more buds already in place. So although they may look a little tired after the rains, there are many, many more buds coming on. And they will bloom for a long time. They'll bloom well into September most years. So they give you lots of, it's a nice long season of color, which is unusual for shrubs. As we pass along here, we see various shades of deeper pink. There are some that are a little bit more dwarf in their habit. They don't get quite as tall. Your typical butterfly bush is in the 6-foot range, some of them up to 8 foot. So some of them are large scale, some of them are smaller. Some are going to stay more in the 4-foot range, which is a lot more manageable for the smaller landscape. So there's literally a good plant for almost every garden. As we're going along here, we're looking at some more sort of lavender purple colors. We're looking at some really deep purples in this one down here. There's lots of great varieties. Adonis Blue, White Profusion is one of my new favorites, and I have been somewhat on a tear collecting as many of the butterfly bushes as I can this year. I'm setting up a great big area for butterflies, so I've got the collector's urge to get one of each, and this is White Profusion. I absolutely love this, and although it's white, white can be so striking in a garden. White also, just as a side note, is something that you notice more in the evening at dusk. It's a plant that if you have it up near a patio, for instance, you're going to notice it more in the evening hours. And looking down here, we have more whites and purples, and there goes a butterfly right on cue.
Yeah.
That was pretty neat, and that was a monarch. The next set of plants that are in bloom right now are, we're going back to hydrangeas, believe it or not, but a whole different series of hydrangeas. And then the winter hydrangea, sometimes called panicle or Hydrangea paniculata in all of its different species. And we can take a walk up towards the back here and take a look at them.
Okay.